welcome you to the 2019 induction ceremony for the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame. As we get started, I am pleased to introduce the Hamilton Chamber Singers from Hamilton Township High School under the direction of Heather Shute. Those who are able, please stand as we pay tribute to America with the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let's have a round of applause for these talented young men and women. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day today to entertain us and help honor our great nation. I thank all of you for joining us today as we celebrate the many achievements and contributions of some very remarkable older adults. The Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame was established in 1977. It honors Ohioans aged 60 and older for achievements and contributions to others, the roles they play in their communities, state, and nation, and what they do to promote productive and enjoyable lives. Their stories are compelling and represent lifetimes of dedication, ingenuity, perseverance, kindness, and compassion. This year's inductees range in age from 70 to 92. Their additions bring the total number of inductees since inception of the Hall to 486. In addition to our inductees, we are honored to have one more very special guest with us. And I am somewhat biased, I will say that. Governor Mike DeWine took office in January, and I am beyond proud to serve in his administration. Governor DeWine and I believe that protecting the health, safety, security, and vitality of older adults is not optional in Ohio. He is committed to strategic investments and public policies that evolve to meet the changing needs of our older population and their caregivers. And he understands that communities that see their older residents as individuals who are still rich with values and abilities will benefit from their potential. Please join me in welcoming Governor Mike DeWine.
Thank you very much. Please have a seat. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Great to be with all of you. Let's give a hand again to the Hamilton Township High School for their great work. Very inspirational rendition of the national anthem. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it very, very much. It's my honor to be here and kind of kick off this and our Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame. I know several of the members here. Some I do not know, but I've had the chance to read through the brief bios that are in here. Very, very impressive. Everything from the Children's Defense Fund to Monarch Butterflies. These are great passions. And I just, on behalf of the people of the state of Ohio, I want to say thank you to our 12 honorees, people who are really out there making a difference. If you look at what's common with each one of the honorees, I think there's a couple things that came to light that I thought about, at least as I was reading the brief descriptions of some of the things that they have done. One is a great passion, great excitement about life, a great love of life, a real desire to help other people. These are really exceptionally amazing people. Ohioans are people, I think, who we just go about our business every day. We get the job done. We don't brag a lot. And you look at this group, this is not a group that brags a lot. My wife, Fran, and I had the opportunity 2 days ago to see some other Ohioans. And some of them were senior citizens, too. And they had suffered the loss of their homes, suffered loss of everything they owned in some cases. And yet you saw them out there as we walk from house to house. You saw them picking back up, doing what they had to do. We talked to some of them, and it was just amazing. You know, one after the other said something like this: I've lost everything I have, but I have my wife, or I have my husband, we have our kids, none of us were hurt, we're all okay. The house can be replaced, the car can be replaced, but we move on. So that's really kind of who we are. And I think if you look at if you've all had a chance to kind of read this and look at the summary of what these 12 individuals have done, each one is very inspiring. They're inspiring because of their love of life. They're inspiring because they continue to work to help others, to make this a better state, to make our communities better. We are, whether we like it or not, an aging state. If you look at the demographics and the projection of where we're going in the next decade, the next 2 decades, so we're going to get older on the average. The good news is that people we call senior citizens are doing more. They're doing more than they've ever done before. And so what the Department of Aging does and what the director does is to do everything that we can and play a role in trying to help our seniors live active lives, live up to their potential, whatever passions they have, whatever they like to do, doing whatever we can to see that they can continue to do that. That's not just for them. That's important for them, but it's important for the rest of us. We have seniors today who are mentors for young kids. Many cases it's their grandchildren, sometimes it's total strangers. We have them out there who are making a difference every single day. So again, I wanted to stop by. I just wanted to honor these 12, honor everyone who's already in the Hall of Fame, but we just have so many seniors who are making a phenomenal difference. So to the 12 who we're honoring today, thank you. Thank you very, very much for your great work. It's just really appreciate it very, very much. And again, I keep coming back to the book. I want to give one shout out, Bill Considine, who spent a career involved with kids at Children's Hospital, who's a personal friend of mine. Eric Winston, a longtime friend from Greene County, neighbor of mine. I will tell you that in case someone thinks the fix is in, I didn't know either one of them had been picked. I don't have anything to do with picking them, But it's just an amazing, impressive group of people, and I'm very, very grateful. So I'm just the preliminary act here. The real show is when we honor the 12, and I'm going to get off stage, and you can move forward, Director, and do that. So thank you all very, very much.
And thank you so much, Governor DeWine. So at the Ohio Department of Aging, we represent 2.8 million Ohioans who are age 60 or older. But really, we work for all 11.5 million Ohioans because we are all the faces of aging. We work closely with our 12 area agencies on aging, senior centers, regional long-term care ombudsman programs, nonprofit organizations, and volunteer and advocacy organizations. Together, this aging network is committed to upholding the fundamental principle that older adults can live where they choose, with the people they choose, and with the ability to participate fully in their communities. You may know us for the Golden Buckeye program. We also administer programs to promote healthy and active aging. Working with our partner and provider networks, we provide supports that help older adults remain safe and independent in their homes and communities for longer. And when the need for assistance with daily tasks arises, we are here to make sure every older Ohioan has access to the services and supports they need. We couldn't do any of that without the hard work and dedication of Ohio's 12 area agencies on aging. Area agencies design and support local networks that meet the unique needs and preferences of elders in each of Ohio's communities. Their staff know their communities well and help the department identify and address specific areas of need, as well as pursue opportunities for innovation. I am extremely grateful for their insight and leadership. I am proud to introduce DeWine Patton, Director of the Ohio District 5 Area Agency on Aging, and current President of the Ohio Association of Area Agencies on Aging, who will tell you more about the work of their agencies. DeWine.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Director McElroy, and for all our wonderful guests here and the honorees. The Ohio Association of Area Agencies on Aging is grateful to join the Department of Aging to induct these accomplished individuals, these phenomenal and prestigious Ohio senior citizens who are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Today's honorees hail from 8 of our regions, but I know that impact of your work is felt across the entire state of Ohio. I also know that several of you work directly with and support your local area agencies on aging, and we thank you for that. Area agencies are in your counties, your communities, designing and managing services for older Ohioans who need them, and supporting older adults and their caregivers. I know I speak on behalf of my colleagues around the state that we are very passionate about what the governor, his vision for older Ohioans, for the director and her team. We are foot forward in doing great things for Ohio senior citizens. Area agencies are innovative. They take on a challenge, and we are ready to work with this administration and do some really great things in the coming years. On behalf of O4A, I am honored and very proud to be a part of today's event and have the opportunity to recognize these honorees and all of Ohio's older adults for all that they do to keep their communities strong and vibrant. Thank you.
And finally, before we start our inductions, I wish to take a moment to recognize some of our distinguished guests this afternoon. First, I thank the members of the General Assembly and their staff who took time out of their busy schedules to visit with and recognize our honorees. If we have any in the room, if you could please stand. I know there was session today and we had many come through, but if there are any still in the room, I'd like you to stand. And if not, again, I just want to publicly say I thank those who were able to come through during the reception. We also have members of Governor DeWine's cabinet with us today. These are my colleagues that I'm very pleased to work alongside. If they would please stand to be acknowledged. The cabinet members or their designees, absolutely. Thank you. We also have members of the Ohio Advisory Council for Aging with us here today. The council supports and informs our work to ensure we consider the needs of every older Ohioan. If there are any council members here, please stand and represent the council. Absolutely, thank you. And I know we are fortunate to have staff and directors from several of our area agencies on aging on hand today to help us honor our inductees. Could you please stand and be recognized as well? And it's really important that I also have staff from my department stand or step forward to be recognized for the hard work you've done to make this event happen. Please stand for staff. And I do want to recognize the nominators who brought these remarkable individuals to our attention. We appreciate the time you took to research and write your nomination essays. And finally, if you would stand just so we can recognize you on this wonderful day. Yes. And I want to thank all of you, the friends and families of the outstanding individuals we are about to honor. You each have played a role in their achievements, and thank you for being here to help recognize their wonderful work. And now, it's our honor to introduce to you the newest members of the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame. We hold our induction ceremony in May each year because May is Older Americans Month. Celebrated across the country, Older Americans Month celebrates the many ways older adults' diversity, values, insight, and experiences help to shape their communities. In 2019, we are highlighting the many ways that older Ohioans, one, connect with friends, family, and services that support participation, two, engage in activities that promote learning, health, and personal enrichment, and finally, contribute time, talent, and life experience to benefit others. The individuals you are about to meet have distinguished themselves with their abilities to connect, create, and contribute. Here are a few thoughts from our inductees on what it means to connect with others.
Throughout life, always be certain that you are connecting with other people. In any kind of environment throughout the world, you learn from them and they learn from you.
I connect with the people in the community, with my friends, with my family, as a means to enjoying my life.
I connect with my residents as frequently as I can. And when I go in, I spend my time listening to them, and it makes them feel a lot better. They know I care, and their life, they say, is happier because I'm there and because I'm encouraging them to be positive.
But it's making those connections where you find the history. A lot of the things were left out of the history books, and that's what I've attempted to fill in all the books that I've written, is the things that were missing.
I just connect with people by being open and by making a point of engaging people when I'm around them, so I don't wait for them to engage me. And I really particularly like connecting people that I think will like each other, or that they'll get something out of the connection.
I do a lot of networking, and it's been very important to me to have an awful lot of friends. And it's so important to, when you want to do a project, then you have a resource for all the people you need to pull off the project.
I connect by working and staying involved in the community, seeing people every day, in particular young people, and knowing what is going on in the community.
Connection is part of the foundation you need to develop in order to get credibility, in order to have the kind of relationship that's so important in a life that is a meaningful life.
So we're going to tell you a little bit about each of our honorees today. but you can read more detailed biographies of them in your program, and we will also have their biographies available at our website, the Ohio Department of Aging, or www.aging.ohio.gov. Our first inductee to the 2019 Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame is Dr. Doris Bergen of Hamilton. Dr. Bergen's decades-long professional career has literally been child's play. As a scholar and educator, she studied and created ways to strengthen brain development in young children. Her research and techniques on play theory have influenced practitioners around the world. She became a professor at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio in 1988. She taught courses in learning, human development, assessment, and educational psychology, and served as department chair for 11 years. In 2013, the school renamed its interdisciplinary research center the Doris Bergen Center for Human Development, Learning, and Technology. Dr. Bergen's innovative research led to 12 books, more than 60 professional and academic articles, and dozens of national honors and fellowships. She also consulted for toy manufacturers Fisher-Price and Hasbro. However, she is perhaps proudest of the individuals that she inspired along their professional paths, and we thank her for contributing to better lives for Ohio's children and family. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Doris Bergen to the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here today to receive this award. I've been very fortunate in my life because I've had both a wonderful traditional life as a mother and teacher, as well as an exceptionally fulfilling career as a university professor, researcher, and author. When I was in the 5th grade, my family moved to Ohio, to Bucyrus, for my father's position at the GE lamp factory. World War II had started, and I remember the ways that our family had to help with the war effort. I was the tallest girl in the 6th grade, and my 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Scott, wrote in my autograph book, "Hitch your wagon to the stars." But when I entered my teens, I began to get the message that females had a narrower area of life in which to strive. And when World War II was over, although many women had worked in factories and were in the service, the message to women was to stay at home and have big families. My family, however, supported me going to college, and I graduated from Ohio State because a woman from Bucyrus had left money in her will for girls to have their tuition paid for OSU. I majored in early education and followed a traditional path after graduation. I got married, taught 2nd grade and preschool in Michigan, and with my first husband, had 3 wonderful daughters who are here with me today. And I also now have 7 grandchildren, and one of my grandchildren is with me today. I also now have 2 great-grandchildren. Because the message to women changed again during the years of the women's movement, and my children were growing up, I was motivated to go back to school for a master's degree. And after I graduated, I was hired by a university on a grant project focused on starting an early childhood education program. As I worked there, I was encouraged to get my doctorate, and so I did so part-time. And as the saying goes, the rest is history. I think I've had the best of both worlds, and especially fortunate to have had a great career as a university teacher and administrator, and authored books, researched issues related to human development, especially to the development of young children, and a contributor to the broader community, with the full support of my present husband. Issues related to children's brain development are extremely relevant today. And one of the areas I have always been concerned about is how much children's play really fosters that development. What I am most concerned about now, and have been writing and researching, is the effects of technology-augmented toys and devices on children's development. And that's been a major theme in my present work. My achievements were possible, I believe, because I lived at a time when women's rights to choose and control their own lives were supported. And that made a big difference to me. And although I ended up being of small stature rather than being tall, I have tried most of my life to follow the advice of Nelson Mandela, who encouraged us all not to act small. He stressed that when you shine your light, you give permission to others to be the best that they can be. And that's what I have tried to do in my life. Thank you very much for this award.
Thank you, Dr. Bergen. Our next inductee is Mary Ann Campbell of Gallup Police. As a young woman in the field of broadcasting, Mrs. Campbell made a name for herself by breaking barriers and blazing trails. Her early career in broadcasting spanned 22 years. In 1950, she helped launch WJEH AM in Gallup Police and several other stations in the area. WJEH remains on the air nearly 70 years later. At AFCO Broadcasting Corporation in Cincinnati, she worked with 7 radio and 5 television stations nationwide. She was the first woman elected to the National Association of Broadcasters. In her second career, Mrs. Campbell served Holzer Medical Center in Southern Ohio. She established the Holzer Heritage Foundation and continues to be a member of the foundation board. She was directly involved in the planning and establishment of Jenkins Memorial Health Clinic in Wellston and Holzer Medical Center in Jackson. She retired in 2002 and started volunteering full-time with Gallia County Chamber of Commerce and Community Improvement Corporation. She has also hosted a radio talk show on WJEH AM since 2005, Talk of the Town, airs 3 times each week, and shines a spotlight on individuals and organizations having an impact on her community. For all that she has done to keep her community healthy, engaged, and informed, we welcome Mary Ann Campbell to the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame.
Thank you so very much. This is not only a thrill for me, but a very humbling experience that means more than words can really explain. I have been blessed my entire life. These past 70 years that I have had a career is because other people were there to help me and be with me throughout all of it. But I must mention 3 people that had the most influence on me. First of all, my father, from whom I learned so very, very much. And then in 1950, the opportunity to put the radio station on the air. John E. Halliday, an attorney in Gallup Police, had a dream of having a radio station in southeastern Ohio to serve Gallia County and the surrounding area. And he made that dream come true, and he let me be a part of it. In 1950, it was rather rare for a woman to have an opportunity to put a radio station on the air. So again, I was blessed. And then probably the biggest and best, my husband Bill, who was my greatest supporter. When I look at the theme that you have this year, connect, create, contribute, this is so important, and anyone who follows those 3 C's cannot help but be successful. I thank everyone and my friends who came to support me today. I thank the Area Agency on Aging for all that they have done and for everything that has made my life so blessed. This is one more blessing that I can add. Again, thank you, and it's something that I will cherish forever. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Our next inductee, William H. Considine of Akron, has worked to ensure compassionate and responsive care for children and families in his Akron community for more than 4 decades. When he took the helm at Akron Children's Hospital in 1979, the hospital consisted of 1 building with a staff of 900 and an operating budget of $35 million. As president and CEO, he led the hospital to become a true healthcare system with 2 campuses, 80-plus locations, a workforce of 7,000, and an annual operating budget of $1.8 billion. The system currently serves more than 1 million patients each year. While he recently stepped down as the hospital's CEO, he is focusing on the Akron Children's Hospital Center for Child Advocacy as CEO Emeritus. He is working to establish 2020 as the Year of the Child and use the election year to shine a bright spotlight on childhood issues. For these reasons and more, we are proud to induct Mr. Considine into the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame. And unfortunately, Mr. Considine is unable to be with us today. Here to accept on his behalf is Mr. Charlie Soley, the Vice President of Government Affairs at Nationwide Children's Hospital.
Thank you so much. It's truly an honor. It was an honor a few weeks ago to be asked by Bill to be here to accept this award. I know he would thank the director and thank all of you for all of your work. It's humbling. He would say it's humbling and an honor to be acknowledged and recognized with the 2019 class of the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame. Thank you so much. I'll let the program move on to the other honorees. Thank you.
And before we continue, let's take a moment to pause and hear from our honorees about what it means to them to be able to create.
To create something is pretty special. I've been the founder of quite a few of these organizations and one thing and another, and to create those and to see them flourish like they have over the years.
I like to create community, and that is whenever I find myself with a group of people, it's how can we accomplish something together, and what does each of us have to contribute in order to create that community that we're engaged in.
What we create is thinking on the cuff. When certain situations come up with things that we're involved with, they don't always necessarily follow proper procedures, and you have to create solutions.
You also create because you learn from other people, and they give so much to you. They contribute to you so you can create.
People ask me, how can I become a writer? And I said, you don't become one. Writing is something you have to do. If you don't have that urge, you can force yourself to write, but you're not going to get the joy out of it that you really get from creating something.
Being a creator of new ideas and empowering other people to get involved with you to take that creation and make it a reality, there's so much reward that comes from that.
I create laughter for people, especially friends, and when they tell me about something they have, I either make a poem out of it or I write a story about it. but I always put laughter in it because I want them to laugh.
I believe every person has creative ability, and I think we just have to find how we want to express that our creative aspects.
It's important for me to create now, to create for the future, because then by creating now, I am creating for the future.
Now I am honored to introduce Eileen Cooper Reed of Cincinnati. She is an accomplished attorney, community leader, and humanitarian who has addressed inequity and inequality for the most vulnerable in her Cincinnati community for more than 3 decades. In 1993, she opened and became the director of the Cincinnati Office of the Children's Defense Fund. Her office documented needs of Cincinnati children and used that information to purpose sound policies to local, state, and federal legislators. She served 2 4-year terms on the City of Cincinnati Board of Education. She was chosen by her colleagues to serve as president 4 years of those years. Mrs. Reed formed the Intersections Group to acknowledge and examine equity in individuals, organizations, and the community. She also created a coalition of 30 child care and advocacy organizations that secured the first Robert Woods Johnson's non-health institution grant in Cincinnati. She served as chair on the boards of the Interact for Health Foundation and the Sisters of Charity Ministry Foundation. She is currently board chair for the Ohio Justice and Policy Center. Eileen Cooper Reed inspires others to be better global citizens, and for this, we are extremely honored to add her to the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame.
Listen, I'd be fine if you never took any pictures of me. Good afternoon. First, I just want to thank those who chose me to be a part of this auspicious class. I read every bio, and I saw connections in some of them from things that I've been or places that I've lived in Ohio. So I'm so honored just to be a part of this particular class with the outstanding individuals who share the class with me. I'm also humbled because how do you get an award for just being who you are and doing what you do? You know, and I feel like that's basically why I'm here today. And so I'm here because I'm really grateful to those 2 tables of people sitting back there, because that's a part of my village, represented by a couple of my 6 children and a couple of my 14 grandchildren, and friends and colleagues who have been I wouldn't have been here without them. That's the short story. So on behalf of all of us, I thank you so much for this award.
Our next inductee is Larry R. Hunter of New Franklin. Mr. Hunter is a successful businessman and a champion of the environment and conservation in his Northeast Ohio community. In 1968, Mr. Hunter founded the HHI Company, a manufacturer of custom parts for race cars. Today, he is active in daily plant operations as the company's president. When he is not working, he turns his concerns and activities to nature and his community's well-being. He is a charter member of the Portage Lakes Advisory Council, which for 30 years he has planned events and resources that bring attention to the community. Mr. Hunter founded the Portage Lakes Purple Martin Association, which sponsors Buckeye Martin Fest each June. The event is a celebration of the birds and the benefits they bring to the area. He founded the annual Kiwanis Portage Pirate Days on the lakes, and a free event attended by more than 350 families. He also founded the Gardeners of Portage Lakes State Park, which manages the park's bird and butterfly trail. As a member of Portage Lakes Kiwanis, he established the Kiwanis President's Day event to recognize leaders of area organizations and also play Santa for those organizations. A former competitive fisherman, he still fishes today and donates his catch to the Kiwanis bluegill fish fry that he established. Mr. Hunter is always giving to his community, and now we have the distinct opportunity to give him a little bit back by welcoming him to the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you. In Everybody Loves Raymond episode, Raymond received an award and thanked everyone except his wife. To avoid Raymond's dilemma, I would start by first thanking my wife, Judy. Without her continued support, none of this would have happened. She should be sharing this award with me. Thank you, Judy. To get where I am today, a series of events had to take place over many years. As a young man, I enjoyed hunting and fishing. During those years, I developed skills that can only be obtained by spending hundreds of hours in pursuit of quarry. I believe that if you're going to take from the resource, you ought to be willing to give back to the resource. When Judy and I married, we bought our home on Turkey Foot Lake in the Portage Lakes. I became focused on bass fishing and joined a bass club to compete against other notable fishermen in the area. I was founder of the Portage Lakes Bassmasters and finished in the top 6 twice in the Ohio Bass Chapter Championship Tournament. When Portage Lakes Advisory Council was formed, I was invited to join to represent the fishing interest in the Portage Lakes. At one meeting, a member said, "We ought to do something about the bugs." I suggested we put up purple martin houses. They said, "Handle it," and I founded the Portage Lakes Purple Martin Association. The Portage Lakes became the purple martin capital of Ohio in 2014, thanks to the efforts of Representatives Marilyn Slaby and Representative Anthony DeVitas, and then State Senator and now Secretary of State Frank LaRose, and of course Governor Kasich. I want to thank the members of Portage Lakes Purple Martin Association for the thousands of man-hours spent managing our purple martin colonies over the years. A special thanks to Paul Toth and Barry Turgison, Chuck and Betty Seeley, and Kay Lucas for their support. Shortly after forming the Purple Martin Club, I was invited to be a guest speaker at Portage Lakes Kiwanis. After the meeting, I was invited to join and have been an active member ever since. Portage Lakes Kiwanis is a special group of happy volunteers that enhance the experience of being a resident in the Portage Lakes. We have a bluegill drop at midnight on New Year's Eve. In February, a President's Day recognition dinner for presidents of the various clubs. We stuff 5,000 eggs with candy for an Easter egg hunt. During Pirate Days at the lakes, we ferry families on pontoon boats to Treasure Island, and pirates shoot them with super soakers. We deliver 3,500 dozen roses for Rose Remembrance Day. We have a bluegill fish fry, and our biggest event is Santa Delivery. Santa Delivery has been continuous since 1951. I have been a Santa for 15 years. Kiwanis has 15 Santas, 15 sleighs, and we deliver over 3,000 Christmas gifts on Christmas Eve. Believe me, Portage Lakes Kiwanis does not know how to do a small project. In 2010, I was president of Friends of Portage Lake State Park. We held the first Pirate Day of 2011 as a fundraiser. The first year we had about a dozen kids show up. After Kiwanis took over in 2012, it has grown to 350 kids plus their families. It has really evolved into a neat event. Today I'm president of the Gardeners of Portage Lake State Park. We manage the bird and butterfly trail at the park. This project was started in 2015 and gets neater every year.
An Eagle Scout built a crushed asphalt walking trail. Girl Scouts installed bluebird houses, and this spring an Eagle Scout built a chimney swift tower. My goal in the future is to get grant money to build a 20-foot by 20-foot building, half for storage and half to be a greenhouse to start seedlings of native plants in the spring and raise monarch butterfly caterpillars in the summer. A special thanks to Carol Hendrickson, Paul Noble, Ed and Louise Judovich for their enthusiasm for this project. I want to thank Mike Studeni, park manager, and all the past park managers that have been instrumental in the success of all these projects. Also, Lisa King, Executive Director of Summit Metro Parks, and her staff of naturalists for their support. A special thanks to Pat Reichquist, a retired naturalist, for her continued support. Receiving this recognition has been a humbling experience. Without the help of hundreds of people over the years, none of these projects would have happened. And here I am receiving credit for their work. It doesn't seem right, so I'm accepting this award on behalf of all the people that have worked with me. Finally, I want to thank my sponsor, Steve Godar, and the Ohio Department of Aging for this honor. Thank you very much.
Next, we welcome David Myers of Columbus. Mr. Myers served the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections and Ohio Department of Youth Services for 30 years as a psychologist and an administrator. After retirement, he started a second career working with underserved populations and non-traditional students at Columbus State Community College. During his career as an administrator, he found his true passion for writing. He has written at least one book every year since 2008. His home state is featured predominantly in all of his books. He feels a sense of responsibility to highlight the stories of the disadvantaged, underserved, and marginalized members of our communities. He also writes about beloved Central Ohio landmarks, such as the award-winning Look to Lazarus, the Big Store, which offered an insider's view of downtown Columbus's landmark. Mr. Myers regularly speaks to historical societies and is a sought-after guest on podcasts and radio and television programs. He co-founded and hosted the Columbus Senior Musicians Hall of Fame with fellow author and personal mentor Robert D. Thomas. He also writes musicals and one-act plays. While on the board of directors of the Hocking Valley Museum of Theatrical History, he helped restore the 1879 Stewart's Opera House in Nelsonville. We are very pleased to start a new chapter in David Myers' story by inducting him into the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame.
Hello. I didn't prepare any remarks because I figured by the time I got up here, people would have already covered everything I was going to cover, and I would have been right. This is very humbling, and for me it's humbling because I look at my fellow classmates and see how much they've accomplished, and I think there must have been a mistake for me to be here as well. I'm not accustomed to receiving awards or accolades. It's not because I'm opposed to them, obviously I'm here, but I've never really been comfortable being in the spotlight. I've always preferred that my work spoke for me. I was brought up to believe that if you do good work, it speaks for itself. Turns out that's more of a hope than an actual belief, because there's people all over Ohio, thousands of them, who are doing incredible things, and they won't ever have the opportunity to be up here like I am. And when my wife and daughter informed me that they were nominating me for this award, I was very gratified and pleased that they thought I was worthy of it. And it could have ended right there. That's all I needed. I never do what I do in expectation of receiving an award. And I think that's an important message for younger people. Don't do things in expectation of getting a reward back from them. Do it because it pleases you to do that. Find that reward from within. And that's what I've always done, You discover what your passion is, follow your passion, and that's sufficient reward. And when things like this occur, it's just icing on the cake. But I really appreciate being here today, and I hope some of you are back here in this place next year. Thank you very much.
Now it is time to introduce you to Jenny D. Reed of Mansfield. Mrs. Reed spent nearly 30 years as an administrator and medical practice consultant in a skilled nursing facility. Following her career, Jenny connected with the Regional Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program based in Mansfield, Ohio. She began volunteering as an Ombudsman Associate in 2008. Volunteers like Jenny visit nursing homes and assisted living facilities to meet with residents and families. They educate consumers about the Ombudsman Program and help residents and family members work with facility staff to solve issues with their care. When problems are complex, Ombudsman volunteers facilitate referrals to paid Ombudsman staff. After 3 years as a volunteer, Jenny took additional training to become certified as an Ombudsman specialist. Her contributions in this role free up other staff and resources to reach more consumers and allow her to build strong relationships with those she serves. Mrs. Reed has been recognized by the Ohio State Long-Term Ombudsman as the volunteer contributing the most hours assisting with consumer complaints. More than 7,300 hours in total. I think they're still counting. She was named Advocate of the Year by the Ohio District 5 Area Agency on Aging and is a 2-time winner of the President's Volunteer Service Award in the Gold category. We are extremely proud to bestow her latest honor upon her, a membership in the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame.
I want to thank everybody that I work with and all the people that I've met since I've had this position. The day that I received a phone call from Beverly Tatro, our supervisor, she called to let me know that I was selected to be in the Hall of Fame. And I said, "You jerked my chain." I didn't believe it, and I couldn't understand why anybody would nominate me for anything, for doing a job that I truly love doing. I go to several nursing homes, and I do things that would help my residents have a better life. If they're having a problem, I fight for them and resolve the problem. I don't care who I have to call, corporate executive, doesn't make any difference to me, I'll call them. And I get it resolved because I want these residents to be treated the way I would want my mother or my father treated. I noticed that I knew from working in nursing homes that they didn't get very many visitors from family once they were admitted. So I started trying to be family member as well as everything else. And I have a weird sense of humor. So I would do all kinds of crazy things to make them laugh. A few years ago, I was going to work one Friday, and I decided that I would go back home and fix a nice dinner for my husband and I. It was on a Friday, and we hadn't eaten together all week because I'd been working long hours. So I stopped at a grocery store in Mansfield, and some couple parked beside me, and we walked in together, never knew each other. And as we were coming out, we checked out at the same time. And they announced on the radio that there's wind warnings in Mansfield of 56 to 64 mile an hour wind. So we walked on out, and I opened up the back of my car to put my purse and my cell phone in, and I put my husband's phone number up on the cell phone and laid them in the car so that I could pack my groceries in there and somebody couldn't steal my other 2 items out of my cart. Well, the woman said to me, "Honey, the wind just took your cart and it's flying down toward Lexington Spring Mill with all your groceries." So I turned around and I started walking after her. She said, "You stay here by my husband and I'll run down and get it." So I'm standing there with the winter coat on, my arms hanging down at my side, and the next thing I know, a gust of wind hit me in the back, picked me up in the air, carried me over 2 lines of cars, and then dropped me flat on the front of my body on the blacktop. The last thing I remembered was the bones breaking in my face and somebody saying to me, let us send you to Mansfield General Hospital. So the man and the woman that she had gone after my groceries, she hit the button on my phone thinking that might be my husband because my name was on my license plate and saw Jenny. So when my husband answered, she said, "Are you Jenny's husband?" And he said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, she's had an accident at Myers. She won't let him put her in the Mansfield Hospital, and she needs to go to the emergency room, but she wants taken to Shelby. So if you tell us where you live, I'll drive her home in her car. My husband will follow me in our car, and then you can take her to the hospital." So my husband said, "Okay." So she drove me home, and they ran the groceries in, so he'd stick them in the freezer, and he took me to Shelby Hospital. I was in the hospital for almost a month. It had broken up my face, my leg, my shoulders, and everybody said, "Oh, you won't be able to work again?" And I said, "Yes, I will. I'll get better and I'll work again." It took me a while, but that's why I walk with the cane, because now my knee just automatically breaks by itself. So when I went into my nursing homes with a cane, I was embarrassed to death, because here I am supposed to be an ombudsman helping them, and I'm walking with a cane. I'm in worse shape than most of them. So I tried to think of ways I could make them laugh. So I started carrying an umbrella on my arm on dry days, and I'd walk in like I was really crippled, and they'd say, "Why are you carrying an umbrella today? It's not going to rain." And I said, "Well, in case it does rain, I don't want to blow away and I want to be like Mary Poppins. I'm carrying my umbrella so I can have a soft landing the next time." So I got over the embarrassment, although I had one gentleman that was in a wheelchair, and he walked me to the road to the door every time I was there visiting, because he said, "I can watch out the door, and if the wind picks you up again, I can call for help." So I'm like, who's taking care of whom? But I really would like to get more people interested in working in nursing homes, volunteering as an ombudsman, because you have no idea how much good you do for these people. They laugh, they enjoy seeing you come in. I fight for their food, I fight for anything that they want, because I want to see them happy. And I don't care. I said to one of my friends one day, it's an ombudsman, I said, "I probably am doing things I'm not supposed to be doing, but I don't know if they've ever fired a volunteer before, but if they do," I said, "I'd be getting a pay raise, because I'd have to buy my own gas, use my own car, and I use our electric and my cell phone for all my phone calls, so, I'm not losing much, I'm gaining." I said, "The only thing I'm losing is my connection to these people, which I don't want to lose." And they've made me promise I will not quit, and I said I won't. I'm going to work until I'm 100 years old as an ombudsman. The day I turn 101 day old, I'm going to take that one day off, and then when I'm 102, I'm going back to work. So I would like to continue doing this. I hope I can continue making my residents happy, get them a better life, do more things that they like to do, and it's making my life more enjoyable, because I have to keep studying all the time, learning new things. I work late at night. I work all night. Sometimes I go into my nursing homes at night because I know they're not doing a good job on that shift. So I sneak in. I know a door I can go through, and I sneak in and I kind of duck in and out of rooms and pretend like I'm visiting somebody, but what I'm doing is watching the staff not work. And then the next day I go in and I report it to the administrator, and we get a few things done. So I just want to keep everybody going, and I want to keep the people working the way they're supposed to be working, and I want my residents taken care of. By the way, the food is terrible, so if you can do anything to help with food, I'd appreciate it, and so would they, because nobody likes it. And so I wish things would get better, and I'm going to talk to a politician that I met today, and I'm going to see if I can get something going better. I want to thank everybody, Bev Tetro. I'd like to thank the board for having me and for putting me in the Hall of Fame, which is totally shocked to me. I've been numb ever since it's happened to me and just kind of floated on air. But I hope that I earned the honor. I want everybody to know how much I appreciate it, and I want to keep on working with my people in the nursing homes. Thank you very much.
Let us take one more break to hear from our honorees, this time for their thoughts on what it means to contribute.
I contribute to the community because I think it's worthwhile, and I think that each of us owes a bit if we've taken of the community, and I have taken, and so I think it's important to give back.
Contributing gives you the opportunity to feel that you're needed, and it is you're giving a part of you to it to look ahead. You never give back, you always give forward, and contributing is the way to do that.
So contributing is making sure that I'm doing what's necessary to bring a positive life to older citizens.
I think that most people do not realize how much they contribute to others.
I did this knowing that this was not something that I would ever be recognized for. I wasn't a musician, but I wanted to help contribute to the furtherance of their story.
Contributing means making my small difference wherever I am.
Sometimes contributing is giving back, paying back for good things that have happened to you.
I feel that I contribute because I give them my full attention, and I think about them when I'm not there.
The more you give, quite honestly, the more you receive. And that's not just in dollar terms. That's in terms of the kind of spirit you represent. And when you show that caring spirit and you give and share that with other people, what they share back to you is phenomenal.
People think they only have a little bit of time that they can give and they don't want to get involved. And if they contribute what they can, you know, that little bit multiplied by 100 little bits becomes a lot, okay?
All right, our next inductees are Walter L. and Carol A. Talicki of Toledo. Since 2005, Mr. and Mrs. Talicki have volunteered with the Area Office on Aging of Northwestern Ohio. They have dedicated more than 10,000 service hours to the Retired Senior Volunteer Program and more still as volunteers for other programs. Mr. Talicki serves as the Transportation Coordinator for the Area Office on Aging Senior Day Expo. Mrs. Talicki volunteers as a certified Medicare counselor with the Ohio Senior Health Insurance Information Program. Mr. and Mrs. Talicki help ensure their neighbors are prepared for the worst. They supported a partnership between the Area Office on Aging, the United Way of Greater Toledo, and the Lucas County Citizen Corps Council to prepare the community for disasters. Mr. Talicki led the Citizen Corps Volunteer Reception Center, or VRC initiative, which organizes and directs spontaneous volunteers during a disaster. He also researched and wrote the Area Office on Aging's Emergency Operations Plan. Mrs. Talicki maintains a Corps registered and trained disaster response volunteers. This work was successfully put to the test in June 2010 when tornadoes struck Northwest Ohio. The Ohio Department of Aging honored them with the 2011 Join Hearts in Giving Award, and we're proud to honor them again with induction into the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame.
We'd like to thank the Ohio Department of Aging for recognizing us with this award. We'd like to thank Meredith Wagner for nominating us for this award, and Billy Johnson for supporting that nomination. We have heard today the use of the word humbled, but we truly feel humbled in the presence of our fellow recipients because of their accomplishments. I'd also like to recognize some individuals that were here, have come here with us for this event. There is Mr. Bill Harris, who's the chairman of our board of our Area Office on Aging, Billy Johnson, our CEO, Justin Moore, vice president, Meredith Wagner, our RSVP supervisor, also at the other table, our son Matthew and daughter-in-law Kathleen. They are from Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. Three of our 7 grandchildren, Andy, Samantha, and Stephanie. And last but not least, our good friends, our best friends. I think they're more like family than friends. Ed and Marty Lebowski from Livonia, Michigan.
Will and I both feel that we're truly blessed with our family, our friends, and our faith. We are happy and glad that we've been able to reach out and help other people through the agencies that we are associated with. And the associated with started with Area Office on Aging and went from there. It connected to United Way, it connected to the Metro Parks, and it connected to the VA. And then we also indirectly, it connected to our church and our Society of St. Vincent de Paul, where we assist with help too. We plan to continue reaching out through the Area Office on Aging and other agencies in our community to assist those in need and to help them reach their goals, no matter how small. By hopefully improving their lives in any small way, it will make us feel as if we've done our job. Thank you again for this great honor with the induction of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Thank you.
Okay, our next inductee is Dr. Eric V.A. Winston of Xenia. Born and raised in Savannah, Georgia, Dr. Winston moved to Ohio in 1979. He was an administrator at Wilberforce University in Southwest Ohio for 23 years, serving as Vice President of Student Affairs and Vice President of Development. After retirement from Wilberforce, he moved to Chicago, Illinois, to serve as Vice President for Institutional Advancement at Columbia College for 8 years before returning to Xenia. He served on the Xenia City Council for 14 years, including 2 years as president. He chaired the Parks and Recreation Committee and raised funds to support monthly Music in the Park and Movies in the Park series. Dr. Winston was recently appointed to the Advisory Council for the Area Agency on Aging, PSA 2, based in Dayton. In 2013, he turned his drive and vision toward the film industry. His first film, Taking Israel, chronicles the service of 150 African American students at Wilberforce University who spent summers in Israel from 1988 to 2002, a program that he administered. The film won several awards. When he's not directing his own films, he supports the work of another filmmaker as executive producer, co-producer, and even as an actor. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Winston to the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you. You know, when your name ends with a W, you know you last. And so as someone else said, everyone has already said what you're going to say. I'll take a little different approach this time, but I want to thank Director McElroy and CEO Patton for agreeing and allowing me to be honored in this fashion. I'm truly humble, as everyone has said, and so that goes without saying. I also want to thank two special people, Karen Nevius and Ann Finnegan of the Area 2 Agency on Aging. These two ladies conspired behind my back and submitted my name, nominated me for this award, and I knew nothing about it. And then one day they came to me and they said, "Oh, you have been selected for induction into the Hall of Fame." And I said, "What?" And of course, it reminded me of the time I was appointed to a state board years ago, and when they called me to tell me that I was appointed to the board, I said, "Are you sure you got the right Eric Winston?" So anyhow, it goes without saying, I really appreciate this award. I also wanted to thank my family, my wife Karen, and my family that are here today. They share in this because for all of the honorees, we know that we could not be as successful as we have been if our families and those that are closest to us didn't sit around and didn't stand around and support us with all of the late night hours that we put in contributing to the community. So I'm so appreciative of them, and they share in these honors also. As I read, as I reflected on being inducted into this Hall of Fame, I thought about, I said, hey, there's a possibility that this might not have happened. There are two instances in my life that I want to point out to you that had they not happened, I wouldn't be here today. And I'm not sure where I would be, but I wouldn't be here. In the summer of 1961, for those of you who don't remember, some of you, now I know all of the honorees do remember this. Now some of you folk who are kind of younger, you don't remember this. But in 1961, we remember the Berlin crisis, right? Well, I happened to be working a summer job. I was a student at Morehouse College in Atlanta, and I was working a summer job, believe this, at the sterilized diaper service in Brooklyn, New York. Cloth diapers, smelly cloth diapers. We had a young man who was a plant manager, who was not the plant manager, he was a supervisor on the line, and he was drafted, he got called up from the reserves for the Berlin crisis. This is 1961. So Al, the plant manager, came to me and said, Eric, you've done such a great job. We want you to take this guy's place when he goes to active duty. I said, man, that sounds great. He said, and besides that, we're going to pay you $1 an hour. $1 an hour, man, that's a lot of money in 1961. So I called my aunts in Georgia. They raised my sister and I said, good news, I've got this job and they're going to pay me $1 an hour, and I'm going to stay here and work this job and go back to school later. And my aunt, who was the boss aunt, said, boy, if you don't get your A, and you know what comes after that, on that plane and back down to college, I'm going to come up there and you will be a part of that diaper service when I finish with you. So needless to say, I got on a plane and I went back to Georgia because I feared her and I didn't want to get in her bad graces. So anyhow, I did that. The second incident, now think about that. So if I hadn't gone back to college, I could be in New York right now. That'd be bad, but then I wouldn't have met my wife and my kids and my grandkids and everybody. The second incident that changed my life was when I was working. I had a master's degree in library science, and I worked as a librarian in the Brooklyn Public Library. I got drafted for Vietnam, and then I went to the service. And when I came back, I took a civilian job as a librarian at West Point in 1968. On this very weekend in 1969, I went out to Michigan State to visit my high school roommate who was in graduate school there. And as was customary, I went to the Michigan State University Library. At that time, Michigan State had 50,000 students right there in East Lansing. Big school, big library. I walked in the office and I asked the secretary, I'd like to pay a courtesy visit on the director. She said, I'm sorry, he's busy. I said, okay, so I turned around and I told her to tell him that I was visiting from the military academy, and walked out the door, and the door came, now this is the truth, that much from closing. And she said, just a minute. I said, okay. She said, I'll go in and ask him and see if he can see you. So I went in. She came and she went and talked to him. He said, yes, I'll give him 10 minutes. I walked in that office, and 3 hours later, I walked out with a job. And I left West Point, and I went to Michigan State, and that's where I worked on my doctorate, and I met my wife. And again, had that not happened, I wouldn't have my family and my 5 grandkids and my 2 lovely daughters. None of that would have happened to me because I had already put in the application to go to Athens, Greece, or Seoul, Korea to work for the military. So I could have been there. Maybe I've been getting an award in Athens, Greece at that time. But anyhow, the lady who, I often asked her on campus, because I worked my way through graduate school, and I worked and I got my doctorate, and throughout my 7 years there, I worked on campus as well as in school. The lady's name was Yuriko Nakamura, and she changed her life because I never could get her to tell me, why did you tell me to come back? Because that door came within 2 clicks of closing. So that's a seminal event. 2 seminal events in my life, been many. The 3rd seminal event, of course, was when I married my wife. And of course, you know, I got all those grandkids, and not all those grandkids, but 4, 5 grandkids and 2 daughters. So that was it. So, you know, I say, if it had not been for that, I wouldn't be here. But I am here, and I'm thankful, and I'm very grateful to the agency for inducting me into this Hall of Fame. And again, I asked the question, are you sure you got the right Eric Winston? Yeah. And I want to dedicate this award, this induction, to my father. He's not with us now, but he worked his way, he worked all of his life as a waiter on the Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe Railroad. And at age 65, he retired and went to law school because he had gone to law school in the 40s but was unable to finish because my mother died in 1947. And he went to work to help take care of us. But he always instilled on me the notion that you have to give back, work hard, and I have worked hard all my life and tried to bring some joy into other people's lives. So that's me, and I thank you so much for all of what you've done and all of the kindness that the department has given me since they made a decision to put Eric Winston in this Hall of Fame. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, right. I don't want to leave that. Thank you, man.
And our final inductees are Charles J. and the late Marion D. Younger of Findlay. Mr. and Mrs. Younger's good work through the Findlay-Hancock County Community Foundation have helped light brighter futures for so many in Northwest Ohio. Mrs. Younger helped guide the University of Findlay's Massa Museum to become a world leader in the collection of original artwork by children's literature illustrators. She served as a docent president and artist liaison for the Dana Younger Gallery named in her honor. She helped found the Casa Guardian ad Litem program for the Hancock County Juvenile Court. Her community lost a true champion for children and families when she passed away in 2016. Mr. Younger retired as Executive Vice President of Continental Cablevision in 1993. He has served the Findlay-Hancock County Area Chamber of Commerce, the Findlay Area Arts Council, WBGU Public Television, and United Way of Hancock County. For more than 30 years, he has announced area high school soccer games. He was a trustee of the University of Findlay from 2000 to 2012 and received the designation of trustee emeritus. In 1996, Mr. and Mrs. Younger established the Charles J. Younger Fund to support charitable interests in the community. They established the Marion Dana Younger Fund specifically for organizations dealing with children and the public good. For all that they have given to their community, it is our privilege to induct Charles and Marion Younger into the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame. Please welcome Mr. Younger.
Thank you.
Dr. Winston, I'm very sorry, but Y comes after W. It's been the bane of my existence. As Anthony said when he crept under Cleopatra's tent, I'm not here to make a speech. And I know that the mind can absorb only what the seat can endure, so I want to say to you today that Mary Ann would have been very honored, and I am honored, to receive this recognition. I want to thank my nominator, Dave Ferguson, and good friend. And I also want to thank my 4 boys and their family. They're over here. They're what sort of keep me going. I want to thank my friends who have supported me today. And finally, the Ohio Department of Aging for this recognition. I'm very humbled. Thank you.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, if you could just join me in congratulating one more time the 2019 class of the Ohio Senior Citizens Hall of Fame. This is your opportunity. If you want to take photos, go ahead and snap them together. And for our honorees, I want to thank all of our honored guests again for the work that you have done and continue to do for your neighbors and your state. Ohio is a better place because of you. My staff have a few more gifts for you, so please be sure that you see them before you leave. And I thank all of you who came today to help us honor these esteemed individuals. I remind you to visit our website at aging.ohio.gov to learn more about all of our honorees. Thank you for coming, and please have a safe trip home. This concludes our ceremony.